Hey guys, welcome to Fun&gun here. This is my first video on here, as you can tell, and well, I figured I'd do it on something weird and rare at that. And well, why is this rare, you might say? When I bought this particular gun, they told me there was less than 60 of them in the world at the time of purchase last year, so not sure if they're still making this or if they've made more of them, but that's what I was told when I got it. And what makes this weird is this is a bullpup, and you would expect to have a linkage running all the way to the back to your action. This actually does not have a linkage. This is a fiber wire gun. That means when you pull the trigger, there's a motherboard under here that this trigger makes a connection to, sends an electric charge back to your solenoid back here, setting off the gun. You'll see more of that in a minute when we disassemble this. Now this gun does take 1022 parts. It's not technically a 1022, but it kind of is. Like your barrel here is a standard bull barrel for a 1022. It has to have a smooth sided barrel. You can't have flutes and stuff because this part of the gun actually will not lock on to a fluted barrel. It has to be smooth sided barrel. But the gun also uses a 1022 bolt assembly and everything. You'll see that in a minute. It takes 1022 mags. We'll get more into that also in a minute. But okay, so what makes this gun cool is we're going to go ahead and show you that this gun is empty. Nothing in the chamber. This box is empty as well, just for those. There's no ammo on the table, just a prop, empty box. So no ammo around. Okay, so how does this work? Okay, you still maintain your standard 1022 safety back here in the back, so if any of the electronics do fail, you have a mechanical safety, which is nice. So okay, so we're gonna flip this over right here. We're gonna turn on your own switch right here, and you'll see the red LED indicate that the gun's ready to fire. There's one on both sides. And okay, so now that the gun's ready to fire, we're gonna click off our mechanical safety. And I'm gonna show you just how light this trigger actually is. That is the full movement and travel of the trigger. The clicking noise you hear in the back is the solenoid letting go of the actual hammer itself. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and turn this back off. Not technically deeming the gun safe. We're gonna go ahead and put the gun back on safe. It's not recommended to use the power off switch as a safety. You still use the mechanical safety. This trigger is very adjustable. I don't recommend messing with that. I did tinker with that when I first got it. It's very difficult to get it back into working order. Once you change it, I would just leave it at the factory setting. It's very well from the factory. Just don't recommend messing with that. Just gonna go ahead and cover that up front now. Okay, so before we get into the gun itself, like what's inside, we're gonna say it does take 1022 mags, as you'll see in the video. These are a high tower defense mags that I've dyed red. These are my favorite mags for this gun. They've also had 2 screws added to the back of them where you can adjust, mag is empty, where you can adjust how much play you have. You do have to leave a little bit of play so the bolt doesn't drag, but these mags are very well, run very well, I mean. Okay, then over here, let's go ahead and set this to the side. We have an Eagle Arms 30 round mag. I don't believe they make these anymore, but this mag has also had a set screw set into the side right here. You can't really see it, but there's also one on the back, and that allows you to adjust this mag to where, like on the other one, where you can allow for the round to be aligned with the chamber properly. This mag works quite well. You'll see in the video of me shooting it that it appears to jam. It's not the mag that jams. The actual round itself is a dud. Just doesn't go off. Then you see me shoot the GSG 110 round drum. Works pretty good for what it is. I mean, it jams quite a bit, but it is quite fun. Every now and then you'll get you a 110 round reliability out of it. A few more mags I've tried in this. You got your 32 round Pro mags. They've also got screws in them to eliminate the wobble, but even with all the screws, once you get all the wobble out of it, this mag, with the way the feed lips are designed, still is not 100% reliable, or well, as reliable as it can be. As your high tower or your Eagle, these seem to work better with Remington golden bullets, but other than that, don't use these as much for that reason. Now the mag that's recommended by Vadum is your Ruger style, or your actual Ruger factory mags. These mags, I've had decent luck with them. Not my favorite mags. Much prefer the high towers. They're easier to load and a lot more reliable in my experience. But okay, now we got all the mags covered here. Let's go over a few things that's mounted to this gun. We got a Holosun 5.0 or an HS 510C. It's basically a larger version of their pistol sight, in my opinion. Like all the Holosun stuff, works very well. Like that a lot. It also has riding on. It has the riser in there to allow your face to line up with it, because this is a straight stock. Doesn't have the little dip in it like an AR buffer tube to allow for the. So you got to have your spacer. Okay, so you got your Riker arms grip on the side here. Something else weird I wanted to try. It works very well on this gun. I've tried it on other guns. Not gonna say it's my favorite on other guns, but on this, works very well. You also had to put a cheap eBay 45-degree Picatinny mount on there. I think it was like 20 bucks, but it gets you where you can put your Riker on there. Riker's a little expensive, not gonna lie, but definitely fits the space age looking theme of the gun, I guess I'd say. Okay, so a few other things you can see. This is I want to say it was a Tactical Solutions muzzle end. It's not really a comp in my opinion, more of a flash hider type deal, just mainly for looks. It does come with a standard thread protector on the end of the barrel when you get it. Okay, a few other things I've changed here that you can see from the outside of the gun. It has a tandem cross extended red charging handle. This, in my opinion, was a must. The 1022 charging handle that was on here made it very difficult, in my opinion, to charge the firearm. This is a part that I've actually modified myself. This is a carbon fiber magazine release that I've made using a part that they sent me. It's not the factory magazine release, but a factory magazine. It was a prototype from what I was told. It was slightly longer than the factory one. This is the one they started with. And they didn't end up going with this design, and they had a few laying around. He sent me one of those, which allowed me to drill the hole into it and tap the piece of carbon fiber onto there. Use this for competition. Definitely a worthwhile. Makes it way easier to get to your magazine release in fast situations. You'll see later on in the video of me shooting this in the competition. That comes in very handy. Okay, you got your aftermarket grip. Pretty sure it's a Spikes Tactical or something like that. I can't remember. Not my favorite grip. Probably end up changing this eventually. But it's definitely better than the factory A2 that come on the gun. Okay, this is just a piece of pad I added on here because these edges are pretty sharp, and well, you know, prima donna, nobody wants to cut their finger up, hey. So, okay, let's get into the meat and potatoes on this here rifle. This gun right here, this little door, you're gonna pop that off, and you have a Allen wrench inside this door that's wrapped in a piece of heat shrink to create the friction needed to keep the door on. This is something that I'm not just thrilled about for this, because without the wrench in there, this just slides on and off. Really wish it had a detent, but hey, works quite well, I guess. And this is also what houses your 9-volt battery in there as well. And I'm going to go ahead and say you don't store your 9-volt battery connected to the gun, because that will run the battery dead over time. And well, they recommend using an Energizer Ultimate Lithium, and well, these bad boys are about 20 bucks, and yeah, nobody wants to waste 20 bucks. So yeah, don't leave your battery in the gun, just saying. Okay, so yes, it does come with a disassembly tool that you always have on the gun, which is nice, but we're gonna, for speed's sake, we're gonna use a T-handle. And we're gonna go ahead and take this side plate off. You take off your 3 screws here. It's going to give you access to your internals here, which is one of the things that I like better about this than a regular 1022, because this is much easier to disassemble in my opinion. Yeah, you got a few more screws, but it's a lot less fiddling to take it apart and put it back together. And then you can just pop your side cover off, which is very well machined. Not sure if you can see that, but very well made parts. Everything in here is well machined. Inside of this is going to be where your trigger housing is actually your trigger housing. This is a part that you can remove the full part by removing the screws on the other side there. We're not going to do that. It's not needed to clean the gun. We're not actually going to open this up. I don't want to lose anything important, but your gun has to be with the hammer down, or your hammer up into the firing position. I mean, I'm going to go ahead and leave the safety on. And to disassemble this father, you're going to turn your gun over. You got a little hole right here. You're going to push the pin out, and that pin right there is going to release your secondary ejector right here, and you can take your punch and slide that forward and remove it, and that allows your bolt just to come freely right out of the gun, which is very cool. We'll talk more about this in just a second, more things I've changed on that. And when I say secondary ejector here, for those that don't know, something I learned after messing with this and a lot of 1022 mags is your actual ejector for your 1022 is made into the mag. That's why every magazine you get a different ejection pattern. Some of them work better than others, like the Pro Mags here. That's one of the things about them. The way their ejector works in them is not the best. So that's just something that I have learned that I figured I'd put in there. But okay, now you got to this point. That's what I was telling you about the bolt here. What I've changed on the bolt here, this has, like I said before, the tandem cross charging handle, extended charging handle. And the nice thing about the tandem cross part is it has a better guide rod assembly. It's thicker, it's smoother. That actually ended up making the gun function quite a bit better, which is the added benefit of the tandem cross charging handle. Much smoother action in general. Okay, and on the bolt here itself, we're going to have an aftermarket tandem cross extractor, an aftermarket tandem cross firing pin, and all these parts were done because, well, we wanted the gun to be more reliable, and well, that's stuff you do with standard 1022. Well, the bolt itself here has been mirror polished from the factory and does have a rounded off rear face. It actually has, I don't know if you can see that there, but it has the pin to keep your firing pin aligned with the back side of your primers. That all was done from the factory. That's not, so it does have slight upgrades to a standard 1022 bolt. This was a factory 1022 bolt to start with, I believe, but has been upgraded. Okay, so now that's set aside. I also have, I believe it was a Kid Industries extended mag catch and spring assembly in this. That allows for the springs to lock into this a lot tighter than they would have before, and just better overall mag lockup. That was something that probably didn't have to do, but it seemed like it helped pretty well. Okay, then one more part. This is not fully disassembled completely. This is one thing that makes this also quite cool, is you can pop this one other screw out right here. You really don't have to. You can clean this with a brush and a bore snake, but if you really want to get in there and clean your chamber well, you can actually split this fully in half, and that's going to give you access to your extractor channel, the face of your bolt, and your chamber to do a full cleaning on this gun, which is quite useful in my opinion, being a 22. And you can also get inside up into everything around here without the bolt or the barrel extension in the way. You can clean all that up well, which I'll do off video. But okay, so to put this back together, you just insert the barrel extension into the rear of the action here, and you're going to put your V-block back on, align it with the little notch in it, and you're going to need to make sure that the rear of your gun here, when you, I'm going to go ahead and start this screw, but you're going to need to make sure that this point right here is not canted. It needs to be perfectly aligned with the side of the gun. And one more thing, if you can see it up in there, I don't know if you can. Let me take it back out real quick and give you a view of that. That's actually something that's pretty cool that I almost forgot about. It makes this possible here. Let's pop this back apart real quick and show you this before we put it together. There's actually a red tab with 2 brass fittings, and also on the other side, and that's what allows your power from the front of the gun up here to pass through to the back to the solenoid to fire the gun. And it's pretty cool if they didn't actually use a plug there. You just got to realign those tabs and you're good to go. But I'll show you why I tell you have to realign that properly in just a second, though. Let me get this screw back in there. Let's go ahead and get that back in and fully tightened up. Also, I'll show you, I like to use the actual wrench that come with it to fully snug this up, just so that the ball end doesn't strip out my screw. So we're gonna make sure that's fully aligned, and then we're gonna snug our screw back up. Okay, now that's good to go. Let me show you why this has to be aligned, because if you don't align that properly, you're going to end up with your extractor right here not aligning with your extractor cut in your barrel. And from what I've learned from talking to the actual Vadum engineers, if that's not aligned, that is what was causing. I had a few issues with out of battery discharges, and it's something to do with the extractor actually dragging on the case going in. It is not properly aligned and dragging on that oil or the barrel itself, and yeah, you can get out of battery discharges. And well, that's one of the reasons I don't shoot this suppressed anymore, because I was shooting it suppressed one day and had an out of battery discharge. And as you can imagine, your face being this close to the rear of the gun with no earplugs in, out of battery discharges aren't fun. So not something I shoot suppressed really anymore. But let's go ahead and show you how you put this back together. You're gonna put your charging assembly back on there with your spring and everything like you normally would on 1022. You just pop that back into place. We're gonna grab our secondary ejector here, and you got a little notch right here above your mag release plunger that we're going to go ahead and stick this back into, slide it into place. A little bit of fiddling here, and let's see if we can get it back into place here. A little bit of a pain sometimes. Still not as hard as a regular 1022 to disassemble in my opinion, but hey, teach their own. Okay, and then you're gonna drop your punch down in there, and you can go ahead and bring your bolt back to the front. That you got that held in there. We're gonna drop our pin right there. We're gonna jiggle it a little bit to get it properly aligned. Get your pin fully seated there. Everything's fully back together on that. And you're gonna grab your side plate here. Just place it back on there, nothing fancy, no tabs, no nothing, just drops right back on. I'm gonna go ahead and start my 3 screws here. And we're going to get them all started here. Grab a T-handle, put them back. Now, these screws, there's no real tech spec, like torque specs that I could find on them. You just kind of get them back to a good spot, tighten them up, not too tight, just snug. I've never had these come loose, no Loctite, no nothing. Now these screws though, I will say, on both sides, you may want to take those out and Loctite them, torque them down if you happen to come across one of these, because I have had those loosen up and well, you lose your zero, so go ahead and take care of that before you have to. But now that you got everything back together, you can do a function check, everything's good to go. And now you lock in properly, side plates line properly. Another thing, I don't know if I mentioned this yet, but your stock is actually adjustable for length of pull. If you loosen these 2 screws, you can slide this flush with this or pull this out a little bit farther. I'm not going to show that, I already have it set, but that is adjustable. And yeah, well, like I said, what makes this different is the trigger itself. The trigger itself is awesome. Like I said, you're talking mere ounces there. It's pretty much a mouse click. Like, there's nothing there. It's pretty cool. So yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and head this off to the part where I'm shooting it and show a little bit of me just messing with it and on the range and a little bit of competition and shooting with it. And thanks for watching. Okay, first up we got the High Tower Defense 25 round mag. This is the mag that's the most reliable on this gun. It's the one I use most of the time. Okay, next up we got the Eagle Arms 30 round mag. Pretty sure they don't make these anymore, but this one works pretty good in this gun. We're gonna give it a go. That wasn't the mag, that was a dead round. Okay, next up I got the GSG 110 round drum mag. Usually works pretty good. Let's give it a go. Yep, got a jam. GSG drum, not 100%, but still quite fun.
Ready.
All right, shooter ready. Stand by.
All right.
Bye.
418.
Okay. 418. Wow. I bet you those arms were wore out after that.
Yeah, the safety's a weird angle though. Shooter ready. Stand by.
All right.
Shooter ready. Stand by. Shooter ready. Stand by.